All right, so let's dive into the nuts and bolts of sort of the strategies and the techniques for humane live trapping for any type of community cat program. Now, a lot of this content is also applicable to dog capture if you're doing it on a larger scale. But there are two strategies and there are two techniques that if you can adopt pretty consistently, I think you'll have much more success in what you're trying to do with cats. So the first strategy is kind of a concept just to treat every cat as though it's difficult to catch. So the reality is that easy cats are easy to catch. I mean, you can just throw a trap out in a parking lot, throw some food in it, and some cats they're just dying to get in there, just run in. They're very, very easy to catch. So in order for us to really conceptualize treating every cat as though it's difficult to catch, we need to assume that there are more cats than what we see. And we need to assume that beyond those easy cats that are milling around, some of them are just more difficult. So there are a lot of things that go into that, but I think most important is that we pay a lot of attention to the set of each trap, and we make sure that each one is consistently well set, and that we're bringing enough traps to trap every cat that we know of. And that may mean using crates, adding crates into our lineup so that we can transfer out of traps, so we can keep traps in the field if you don't have enough traps, but try to bring more traps than what you think you need. So if you think there's 10 cats at a place, bring 12 or 15 traps. Acknowledge that not all cats come to a managed colony at the same time. So if there's a feeding time of 6 p.m. and you can work with a colony feeder, or if you yourself are a feeder, you know they come at 6, there's probably a couple of cats who don't feel comfortable coming into that sort of social structure, or are more afraid of people or whatever, and they come later. They come at 10 o'clock or they come at midnight. So try to expand your window of trapping. Assume there are more cats than what you see, and really just try to not engage with the cats. Try to make your presence as minimal as possible. So just treat every cat as though it's difficult to catch. The second concept is to do as much prep work as you possibly can. Now, I touched on feeders just a second ago. If you know of feeders in your community, those are fantastic advocates. If you yourself are a feeder, then you may be your own best advocate. And if you're a trapper and a feeder, awesome. Those two things go really well together. But use the resources in your community, acknowledge the variety of stakeholders that you have. So anybody who has a lot of detailed information about a colony, that's a person that you want to talk to. They may know the individual cats, they know the timings, they know what they like to eat. There's so much information that they have that would be very difficult for you to recreate. So really engage with those people, appreciate that they are your allies in this work, and utilize their information to catch more cats. So we want to do as much prep work as we can, and a lot of that comes down to that advanced information. But there are a couple other things we can do as well. So first and foremost, if you've got rear door traps, if you can remove those or eliminate them, or if you've got old beat up traps you can bring out, you can also use zip ties, you can use cable, you can use bungee cord, whatever you can do to make your trap so it won't catch a cat. That's the only time you want your trap to not catch a cat. Put some food in there, use that as a feeding station. And it may be that that's something you have to do over time, where you have the feeder or yourself put the food out near the trap and then put the food closer to the trap, start putting the food in the trap. Eventually, what you've got is a whole group of cats who are just willing to walk in and out all day long, because they know every time they go into one of these cages, they get free food, and that's what we want to do. We want to condition them to sort of desensitize them to the trap. We want them to just feel very comfortable coming in and out. We can also get a lot of information if we've got some fresh dirt and we bury that floor. We're going to start to see tracks. This dirt's a little bit chunky, but if you've got sand or some smoother dirt, you'll be able to see tracks. So you start to get an idea of how popular your trap is. If you've got a trail camera or a cellular trail camera, you can really see what you've got going on. It'll also give you an indication if there's invasive species that you need to work with, or other types of animals that you don't want to catch. So chickens, possums, raccoons, rats, mongoose, wherever you're at, whatever things you may have to deal with. That'll give you some information around whether they've figured out your trap. A lot of information that you can gather by doing that prep work, by talking to people, and by putting traps out in advance. I think that's the number one thing that you can do, is just desensitize the cats to the traps. Also think about, instead of putting all of your traps central to where you know there's cats, put put traps out around an area as well. Put them over behind the shed and down the alley and under this and behind that. Sort of spread them out so that the cats aren't all experiencing the same trap. And so when the first cat goes in, a bunch of other cats are like, whoa, that was kind of scary. And then it becomes harder to catch cats during that same period, because it's really important that we catch as many cats at once as we can, because once let's say we've sterilized 10 out of 20 cats, you just have to catch those other 10 cats, and you're probably going to catch those first 10 cats again, at least some of them. So we really want to put as much effort into each group of cats as we possibly can to maximize our catch rate. Now, I also understand that as officers, ACOs, humane law enforcement officers, whatever you are, there's not a lot of availability for your time to do that large-scale trapping. So your key takeaways are how to set an individual trap. If you're trying to catch a single injured cat, think about doing that prep work if you can, even if it's one day, even if it's a few hours, to get them used to being around it. With injured cats, oftentimes we want to use a bigger trap so that they can get in without hurting themselves on any part of the trap. Like if they're dragging a leg or something, it might be really hard for them to get past a door. So you can take even a fox trap or a coyote trap or even a full-size dog trap. If you put something in the trap on the pan to compensate for the weight. Something like a smooth stone, something that's not as heavy as a dog, but helps to compensate for the weight. And you can do that for kittens as well, so that a smaller cat can then trip your trap. So think about that, and we'll get into a little more detail of setting a trap here in just a second. Okay, so those are our two key strategies, and that's every cat is difficult to catch, make that assumption, and do as much prep work as you can. Those are our two core strategies, and then there's two very specific techniques that will go a long way. Now, there's a lot of different baits you can try, there's a lot of different trap types and sizes and things, and I think there's a lot of value in having those and trying them. A lot of people are limited to a single type of trap or even just a single trap. That's fine too. So our two specific techniques are to make sure every trap is stable, number one. Let me throw this door on. So here I've got some nice fresh dirt. Pretty easy to get a really stable trap. You always want to check that it actually works, that putting dirt in there didn't prevent the pan from moving or anything. Make sure that it's nice and stable. The second one is, right here where I'm at, is putting the trap up against something, either horizontally or perpendicular. We want to get that near something so that the animal doesn't have the ability to walk all the way around it. We don't want them to walk around it and think, I don't want to be contained inside of there. It seems like such a small psychological little element, but we've really seen consistently that it makes a big difference. And in your set, make sure that your door is clear. Always test your trap. On these tomahawk traps, there's a nice little notch here that makes for a really nice set. So we can reach in, test, make sure that it works. Trap is working. You'll see that bar locks in place, so there's no way that cat can get out. Make sure your rear door is locked, and that's a pretty good set. Don't overbait your trap. Put a little bait in the back, maybe a little bit just inside the door, a little bit of freebie out here. Getting a water bottle with some water and some like sardines or some mackerel or something, shake that up. You can use that to make pretty long scent lines, so you can just drip that juice all the way across the field or something. And as a cat is walking its neighborhood, they'll catch that scent and they'll be drawn to your trap. You can sprinkle a little in the trap as well, get it nice and smelly. We don't like all that dirtiness and stink and everything, but cats love it. That's how they know where there's food in their environment. So, don't overbait the trap so they're going to fill their bellies. But that fish juice, as you might call it, it has a nice smell, but it's not going to fill their stomach. So get them nice and hungry. And that's one other point that I want to make, is to make sure that your cats are hungry. Make sure that if you have feeders, make sure that somebody stops feeding them. Make sure that if there's dumpsters or something in the neighborhood, you can close those. If a business is feeding them, ask them not to. You may need to put up signage asking people not to feed cats. So there's all these different strategies that kind of weave in. But I just wanted to cover some basics that will really help you to catch cats. So whether you're doing large groups of cats as part of a TNR clinic, or maybe inside of like a cruelty, like hoarding type of situation where you need to catch a lot of cats, all the same techniques apply whether you're indoors or outdoors. You can use this trap inside of a shelter or inside of a house or a parking garage or a field. Works the same anywhere you're at. Just make sure that trap is stable up against something, and you'll have pretty good success catching animals.